Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Grav and today I'm going to be doing my complete 2022 NHL Mock Draft with top 10 order predictions, prospect analysis, and picks. Now we have a few months to go until the NHL Draft actually happens, but as of right now with the season coming to a close, we have a good idea of who will select inside the top 10. But when it comes to this wide open 2022 NHL Draft, which prospects will actually go inside the top 10 and who will these teams actually pick? Watch till the end for all of my order predictions and make sure you hit that subscribe button to the Sportsnet YouTube channel for the best sports coverage around. And without further ado, let's get into the highly unpredictable and highly crazy 2022 mock draft. Now, I know I just said unpredictable 2 seconds ago, but going on to the first overall pick, this is easily the most predictable pick of the 2022 draft. The Montreal Canadiens being last place in the NHL, having the best odds, they will be selecting first overall in this mock draft, and there is no other way they could possibly go other than Shane Wright. Kingston centerman has been fantastic this season, although he did start off pretty slowly production-wise, and especially in the World Juniors. After he got back, he started going on an absolute tear and put up the production that you'd expect from a first overall pick. But even though the production has definitely risen, the two-way play of him, the consistency, he's an NHL product already, and I think will fit right in. And in 63 games with Kingston, he has 32 goals, 62 assists for 94 points, and also in the playoffs, 3 assists for 3 points. This is a player that, in my opinion, will be a first-line center in the NHL, and although he might not be a complete franchise player, he's going to be a first-line center caliber guy who can play in all situations, play on the penalty kill, be strong defensively. A lot of people have compared him to Patrice Bergeron. I don't know if he's going to be that good, but at the same time, his play style definitely fits. The only problem I see with Shane Wright is that he's not great in terms of pace of play. He might take a couple of years to truly get to the NHL speed, but at the same time, his mind is certainly at an NHL level, and his overall compete level and shot is fantastic as of right now. Now, going on to the second overall pick, we now move on to the Arizona Coyotes spot with the Yotes and the Habs definitely fighting out for that first overall spot over the last couple of weeks. The Coyotes, unfortunately for them, lose that battle. But at number 2, with Shane Wright gone, they still get a fantastic player here, and I think they will select American centerman Logan COOLEY. Now, Logan COOLEY won't get as much hype as Shane Wright, but I think he's right behind Wright in the draft rankings, and I think he's a guy that will be such an impactful player for the Coyotes one day, and could be in the NHL maybe in a year if he really wants to do that. When it comes to COOLEY, skating is really the primary source of his play. Although Shane Wright, maybe the speed and the pace of play is his biggest weakness, with Logan COOLEY, that is his biggest strength, and that's why I think he'll be a great NHL player right when he steps onto the ice. His skating is obviously prolific, but his passing ability, his awareness of the ice is at such an elite level. He's a guy that will be an amazing power play player, will be such a great possession player as well, and will be a centerman that drives a line, and drives the first line, I think, at the NHL level too. In my opinion, this is a slam dunk move for the Coyotes, and to get him at second overall is pretty great. Oh yeah, he also has 106 points in 72 USDP games this year, which is fantastic, and also 5 points in 3 U18 World Junior games. The guy is legit, and he will be fantastic for Arizona. But now let's move on to the third overall pick, and the NHL's newest expansion team in the Seattle Kraken. Obviously, they selected Matty Beniers in the last draft, second overall, and he's worked out pretty perfectly up to this point. But this third overall pick, I think, is equally important to set this franchise off on the right foot. Now, coming in at number 3, I think they will select a D-man, and I think they'll go with Slovak defenseman Simon Nemec. Now, my personal opinion, I think Nemec is the best two-way defenseman of this draft, but it all goes back to his puck moving and skating ability. Those two things are at such a high level, but he loves to carry pucks out of his own zone, carry with possession, lead the rush. He's a guy that's extremely confident for playing in the main Slovak league. He's a guy that is already super mature against men, and although he might not be the best defensively of this entire draft, he can still hold his own, and I think he has a lot of potential in his own end. He, in my opinion, is the best potential defenseman of this draft with what he's able to bring in, especially the offensive game and overall possession game. He's going to be a player that really maximizes that skating and carries that over to the NHL level. And also, that production has been extremely impressive playing in the main Slovak league. He's in 39 games against men, gotten 1 goal, 25 assists for 26 points in the regular season, and in the playoffs in 13 games has 4 goals, 6 assists for 10 points. On paper, when you watch him, he's extremely impressive, and the production also also tells the same story. Now going on to the 4th overall pick and going on to the Philadelphia Flyers selection, they started off horribly and have continued to fall down the standings since then, but at 4th overall, this is a pick that they cannot by any means mess up as badly as they did with the Nolan Patrick pick, and I hope that they'll definitely do their research with this one too. I think they will go for a D-man here. I think it's between JIRICEK and SLAFKOVSKY, but in my opinion, the Philadelphia Flyers will select Czech defenseman David JURAJ. Now, in my opinion, David JURAJ isn't as strong potentially as Simon Nemec is, but at the same time, I think he'll be better defensively at the NHL level and will definitely bring a calmness that Nemec might not bring. In my opinion, the calmness and maturity in JURAJ's defensive game is fantastic, and he's also a great skater too. That's an underrated part of his game from what I've seen. He's a player that also can carry out with his own, can carry pucks by himself and evade forecheckers pretty well. He's going to be a strong defensive player and also can bring some physicality too, which I think is also what Philadelphia will be looking at too. At the same time, he still has some offensive traits that I like. His shot is fantastic. He loves to command the offensive blue line and really straddle around other players. He's a guy that I think is going to be a solid, strong, middle pairing defenseman that you can depend upon and will come to love. But now moving on to the 5th overall pick here and the New Jersey Devils. This is a difficult position for them because I think if they had the chance at JIRICEK or Nemec, they should probably go for those two defensemen. But since they're both gone with Seattle and Philadelphia selecting them back to back, I don't think they'll reach for another D-man. I think they will go for a winger here, and I think they'll go for Slovak stud JURAJ SLAFKOVSKY. Now with SLAFKOVSKY being a left winger, I think that also helps, but the size and the skating and the overall shooting attributes, I still think add to a complete and solid top 6 package. In my opinion, he might not be as good as a guy like Matthew Savoie offensively someday, but he's going to be a great complementary player alongside Jack Hughes or even a Nico Hischier if they do go that route. But he's been absolutely amazing throughout pretty much everywhere he's played. Even though his league production hasn't been amazing with 10 points in 31 games, he's still been a great possession player down there, and in the playoffs, he has 7 points in 17 games, which I think also helps quite a bit. But in the Olympics, he got 7 goals in 7 games, which is where you probably heard of him from. But the goal scoring ability, the overall tenacity, the great physical attributes he has, there's a ton of potential there for the Devils to unlock, and at 5th overall, it's not a bad pick whatsoever. But now going on to the 6th overall pick and the Columbus Blue Jackets, and you may be asking, how is Columbus in this spot? They are not that bad. Well, they're not, but also, they got Chicago's pick in the Seth Jones trade, and unless Chicago picks inside the top 2 and wins that lottery, Columbus will have Chicago's pick in this draft, and it's looking pretty juicy right now too. Going on to the 6th overall pick though, with them selecting Sillinger and Kent Johnson back-to-back in the last draft and getting centermen who can skate and be more of the playmaking side of things, I feel like for Columbus, they're going to go for a winger and go for the goal-scoring side of things, and I think they will select Finnish scorer JOAKIM KEMELL. Now, for me, KEMELL is one of the more controversial players of this draft. He started off just absolutely lighting it up in the Liga, goal-scoring frenzy in the first few weeks, but since then, he's fallen off a little bit and has gotten a lot more unlucky. At the same time, at 5'11", he is definitely one of the better goal scorers of this draft and will be a consistent guy, I think, at getting that at the NHL level. In 39 Liga games this year, he has 15 goals, 8 assists for 23 points, and so far in the U18 World Juniors has 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points in 2 games played. I'm not the biggest fan of KEMELL, and I think there are better options available, but if Columbus wants a goal scorer and if they want a winger, KEMELL is still a pretty excellent fit, and in my opinion, alongside Patrick Laine, I think he'll fit right at home in Columbus. But now let's move on to the 7th overall pick and the Ottawa Senators, and besides Shane Wright going first overall, I think this is the next obvious pick. For the Ottawa Senators, there's no other player they would select at number 7 than Conor GEEKIE. The only way they don't select GEEKIE is if he's already selected, but I think it's pretty fair to say that he'll be at number 7. When it comes to the Sens, they always like to draft size no matter what, and with Conor GEEKIE being 6'5", over 200 pounds, he does fit that bill. But as a 17-year-old center in the WHL this year in 63 games, he's gotten 24 goals, 46 assists for 70 points. When it comes to GEEKIE, for me, I think there's a lot of potential there, but I also don't think he uses his size as much as he should. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Quinton Byfield Light in his draft year, where although he had that physical size, he wasn't using it quite yet, and he was also a little bit of a passenger on his own line this season with the Winnipeg Ice. I still think there's a lot of potential there. His passing is fantastic, and his awareness with his size is good, but at the same time, there's still a lot more than I want to see from GEEKIE before I really see him as a great pick here at number 7. But now let's move on to the 8th overall pick and the Detroit Red Wings, Steve Yzerman's baby. It's fair to say that whoever gets picked here will likely be a stud, so watch out. At number 8, though, I'm going to go to a player that I think under Steve Yzerman's hands would be absolutely electric in Matthew Savoie. Now, in my opinion, Matthew Savoie is a top 5 player of this draft with the potential that he's able to provide. That skating is elite. His quickness and agility, especially offensively, is just so good. For one, Matthew Savoie is not good at all defensively, obviously, but in terms of the skating, in terms of the possession, in terms of keeping pucks on his sticks and evading pressure around defensemen, he's so elite at a lot of offensive characteristics, and in my opinion, I think he could become a first-line player, an amazing one at the NHL level if developed right. In 65 games with Winnipeg this year, he has 35 goals, 55 assists for 90 points, lining up the WHL throughout the entire season. This is a guy that kind of reminds me a little bit of Jack Hughes, where the frailness of his size might impact him in the first couple of years, but I think his overall NHL career will still be long if he's developed right, and I think under the right system, especially Detroit's, he could be an absolute monster. But now moving on to the 9th overall pick, and the Buffalo Sabres at this spot. They've been way better over the past few weeks and are finally starting to build something great in Buffalo, at least let's hope, over these next few years. Another big part of that core going into the future will be this 9th overall pick. I think they will go for a winger here and select American right winger Frank Nazar. Now, although he's on the shorter side of things at 5'10", he's one of the shorter players that I think will succeed at the NHL level and succeed very well. In the USDP this year, in 77 games, he's gotten 40 goals, 60 assists, and the biggest thing when it comes to me with Frank Nazar is the energy. He never takes a shift off, always makes life so difficult for opposing defensemen, always skating well, always looking out for other options, and cycling at such a great rate in the offensive zone. He's going to be a player that has a great forechecker, great speed, and great overall quickness, and you put him alongside a centerman like a Tage Thompson, and I think that would be an amazing fit day one. He'll be playing with the University of Michigan, which is again a great development program, and I think Nazar is going to be special there as well. He's going to be a fantastic pick for the Sabres and will be a great and consistent top 6 winger for them. But now let's move on to the 10th overall pick, and the Anaheim Ducks will select at this spot, and in my opinion, they have great potential to select an absolute stud here still at number 10. This is a guy that I have still pretty high on my boards, but I know is a very controversial player, but still, at number 10, I have the Anaheim Ducks selecting Finnish forward Brad Lambert. Now, in my opinion, Brad Lambert is an interesting case study. Remember last year with Aatu Raty, how he was a projected top 5 pick at the start, even first overall pick at the start, and slowly as his Liga production started to slow, his stock fell quite a bit. I still had him in the top 20, but he ended up going in the second round to the New York Islanders, and this year in the Liga, he was around a point per game, got the luck on his side, and looked a lot more consistent. With Brad Lambert, I think that could be even more so, especially next season. He's got in 25 Liga games, has 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points. I've still seen great things out of Brad Lambert with the possession, with the overall quickness he has, with the offensive potential. There's so much to like there on a consistent basis, but again, the luck has just not been on his side. Something about these top-end Finnish forwards is just not going their way, and with Brad Lambert, I could totally see him next year being around a point per game in the Liga and being along the same lines as Aatu Raty. And I think when it comes to Brad Lambert, he has even more potential than Raty ever had with the offensive production and just the consistency and possession he has. I could see him becoming a top 6 winger, even a centerman, and being a great offensive force for the Ducks to work with, alongside Zegras, alongside players like Troy Terry, and alongside that great forward group. But that'll be it for today's top 10 mock draft. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys agree and disagree with. Who do you guys see going inside the top 10? Which picks would you change? Which would you have staying? Let me know your thoughts. And if your team is in the top 10, who do you guys see them selecting? Let me know all your thoughts down below. Make sure you share this video with your friends. Get it out there to any hockey fans you guys know online. And make sure you subscribe to the Sportsnet YouTube channel. Hit that like button. Hit that notification bell. And I will see you in the next one. Have a great day. Drink some water. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.